The teenage alien royal insulted the human, so he turned and walked away without a word. Zara watched from her observation post as the human male stood motionless before High Princess Kylira of the Viridian Empire. The princess was still speaking, her voice rising with each syllable. No one in the grand hall dared to breathe. Zara had studied humans for 3 cycles now, but even she was unprepared for what happened next. The human ambassador simply turned and walked away without uttering a single word. The Viridian court erupted in shocked whispers. No one walked away from the royal family. No one. Kylira stared open-mouthed at the retreating form of the human, her 6 fingers twitching in agitation. Her iridescent scales flashed dangerous, patterns of red and gold. Zara typed furiously into her datapad. This was exactly the kind of cultural interaction her research needed. The humans had arrived on Viridia only 2 months ago, establishing the first diplomatic mission from Earth. Their customs were still largely mysterious to the Viridian population. Officer Lisa Martinez, the human security chief assigned to the embassy, caught her eye from across the room and gave a subtle headshake. Lisa had become something of a friend to Zara, explaining human customs when Zara became confused. Later in the embassy garden, Lisa found Zara still frantically documenting the incident. The ambassador did the right thing, Lisa said, sitting beside Zara on the stone bench. Zara looked up confused. But he insulted your royal house. Lisa laughed softly. Sometimes walking away is the strongest response, but our traditions, the consequences. Zara stammered. Our royals demand verbal submission when challenged. The human shrugged. That may be your way, but humans have a saying about picking your battles. That princess is barely an adult by your standards. She was trying to provoke him into saying something that could be used against Earth. Zara considered this. Humans were physically weaker than Viridians, lacking both the natural armor of scales and the venomous capabilities. Her species assumed this meant they would be easily dominated in negotiations. They had been wrong. The diplomatic incident spread across the capital city by nightfall. The human ambassador who dared to walk away from Princess Kylira. The story grew with each telling. Zara continued her observations over the next several days, noting how the human embassy staff carried on with their duties as if nothing unusual had happened. Meanwhile, the royal court was in an uproar. The princess had demanded various punishments, but the Viridian High Council surprisingly refused to take action. The humans have broken no laws. High Counselor Trev had stated they merely refused to engage. That is their right. Zara found this development fascinating. The council had never before declined a royal request for punishment. She suspected the humans had somehow impressed the elder Viridians. She brought her findings to Lisa, who was training in the embassy gymnasium. The human woman was lifting weights much heavier than her slim frame suggested possible. Another surprising trait of humans, their strength-to-size ratio exceeded Viridian expectations. I think your people have gained allies on our council, Zara said, watching Lisa complete her exercises. Lisa toweled off her face. The ambassador knows what he is doing. He expected the princess to test him. That is why he walked away. Sometimes showing restraint is more impressive than showing force. Zara tilted her head. Is this common among humans? Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous, Lisa said with a smile. We learned that over thousands of years of our own conflicts. This was new information for Zara. Her research had focused on human biology and basic cultural practices, but their conflict resolution strategies were proving far more complex than the Viridian military had anticipated. May I interview the ambassador for my research? Zara asked. Lisa nodded. I will arrange it. But be prepared, he might not answer everything. Some human strategies remain confidential. The next day, Zara sat across from Ambassador Alan Mason in his office. The walls were decorated with images of Earth, landscapes, mountains, oceans, and forests. The human homeworld seemed so different from the desert landscapes of Viridia. Thank you for agreeing to this interview, Zara began. My research aims to help both our species understand each other better. Mason nodded. Please ask your questions. Why did you walk away from Princess Kylira? Zara asked directly. The ambassador smiled. There are times when engaging with provocation only validates it. The princess wanted a reaction. She wanted me to either submit to her authority or challenge it. Either response would have weakened Earth position. I chose a third option, but in Viridian culture that is deeply offensive. Zara pointed out. Mason leaned forward. And in human culture, trying to publicly humiliate a diplomatic representative is equally offensive. We needed to establish boundaries early in our relationship with your people. Zara documented his response, noting the calculated nature of the human approach. Do you fear retaliation from the royal house? She asked. Mason smiled. Again. We came in peace, but we are prepared for all scenarios. I believe your High Council understands our position better than the princess does. They have been in contact with us privately since the incident. This surprised Zara. The council usually deferred to royal preferences in diplomatic matters. The humans were changing everything. The old protocols, the traditional hierarchies, all were being questioned in the wake of their arrival. What do humans hope to gain from relations with Viridia? Zara asked her final question. Mason considered his words carefully. We seek peaceful trade, beneficial technology exchange, and mutual defense where appropriate. The galaxy is vast, and not all species share our commitment to peace. We believe alliances are essential. As Zara left the embassy, she spotted Princess Kylira vehicle arriving at the front entrance. This was unexpected. The princess had not announced an official visit. Something important was happening. Zara slipped back inside using her researcher credentials. The princess was being escorted to the ambassador office without the usual entourage of guards and advisors. Zara positioned herself where she could observe without being noticed. She had a feeling this unscheduled meeting would be significant for her research. What she witnessed next would change everything. Zara held her breath as Princess Kylira entered the ambassador office alone. The door remained partially open, allowing her to hear the conversation. Ambassador Mason, I come without official capacity. The princess said, her voice lacking its usual imperial tone. The human stood but did not bow. Please sit, Your Highness. What can I do for you? The princess scales had shifted to a muted blue, a color Zara recognized as indicating humility or concern. This was unprecedented. We have received disturbing intelligence, the princess said. Centurion scout ships have been detected at the edge of our system. Zara froze. The Centurions were ancient enemies of the Viridian people. Their last war had ended 50 cycles ago with an uneasy truce, and you are telling me this? Why? The ambassador asked directly. The princess hesitated. My father, the emperor, does not wish to appear weak by asking for assistance, but our main fleet is deployed to the outer colonies. They cannot return in time if this is a prelude to invasion. The human nodded slowly. So you came unofficially? Yes, the princess admitted. I may have misjudged your species. Ambassador, our intelligence indicates the Centurions fear humans more than they fear us. They have been monitoring your arrival on our world with great concern. Mason leaned forward. Why would they fear us? We have only one diplomatic vessel in orbit. The princess scales flickered. There are stories about Earth. Stories about how your kind ended conflicts with the Droxy and the Mavarian Collective. Both species were far more advanced than humans, yet both signed peace treaties heavily favoring Earth interests. Zara nearly gasped. The Droxy were legendary warriors, and the Mavarians were known for never compromising. Yet the princess was suggesting humans had somehow dominated both species. Are these stories accurate? The princess asked. The ambassador smiled slightly. Stories often grow in the telling. But yes, we have had successful negotiations with both species. How? Kylira demanded without royal formality. How does a species with limited space capability and no natural defenses manage to secure such outcomes? Mason rose and walked to the window. Earth has a long history of conflict among our own people. We have learned many lessons about war and peace. Sometimes the most effective weapon is not a weapon at all, but knowledge properly applied. The princess appeared confused. Mason continued. We study our potential adversaries thoroughly. We learn their cultural weaknesses, their internal political divisions, their fears and motivations. Often we can find peaceful resolution by addressing underlying concerns. When that fails, we have other methods. The princess scales now showed patterns of anxiety. What methods? The human turned back to face her. I am not at liberty to share our tactical approaches, but I can assure you that if the Centurions are indeed planning aggression against our Viridian hosts, Earth will not stand idly by. Zara was fascinated. The ambassador had neither confirmed nor denied the rumors, yet had managed to reassure the princess while simultaneously maintaining an air of mystery about human capabilities. This was masterful diplomacy. "Thank you, Ambassador," the princess said, rising to leave. "I will inform my father of your willingness to assist, though unofficially." When the princess had departed, Zara was about to slip away when she heard the ambassador call out, "You can come in now." "Researcher Zara, I know you have been listening." Startled, she entered the office. "How did you know?" Mason smiled. "Your breathing pattern changes when you are excited. It is quite distinctive to human ears." Another thing we noticed about Viridian. Zara felt embarrassed, but the ambassador gestured for her to say to assume this conversation will be added to your research, he said. "Yes," she admitted. "Is that acceptable?" Mason nodded. "But I would ask that you delay publishing anything about the Centurion situation for now." The princess came in confidence. Zara agreed, though her mind was racing with questions the human had implied, capabilities far beyond what Viridian intelligence had assessed, and the princess clearly believed these implications. Over the next 3 days, Zara observed increased activity at both. The human embassy and the royal palace security patrols were doubled around the capital city. Viridian military vessels in orbit had moved to higher alert status. Lisa found Zara in the embassy library where she was researching human conflict history. "Situation is escalating," Lisa said quietly. "The Centurions have sent a formal delegation. They arrive tomorrow. Is this good news?" Zara asked. Lisa shrugged. "It could be, or it could mean they want to assess our presence more directly before making any moves." The ambassador has been asked to attend the reception. That evening, Zara received a surprising invitation from the royal palace. Her expertise on humans was being requested for the Centurion reception. She would attend as an advisor to the royal delegation. The following day, Zara dressed in formal Viridian attire and made her way to the grand reception hall. The atmosphere was tense as both Viridian and Centurion officials gathered in small groups. Their species shared a common evolutionary ancestor but had developed along different paths. The Centurions had evolved thicker armor plating and more pronounced venom sacs, giving them military advantages in their ancient conflicts. Ambassador Mason arrived with a small human delegation. Their formal attire was simple by Viridian standards but somehow commanding. Lisa was among them, now dressed as a diplomatic security officer, rather than her usual casual attire. The Centurion ambassador, a towering figure named Drex, approached the human delegation, first ignoring protocol that should have prioritized the Viridian royals. This was clearly an intentional slight, Ambassador Mason. "I have heard much about humans," Drex said, his translator converting the harsh clicking sounds of Centurion speech. "Your species intrigues us." Mason smiled diplomatically. "We are pleased to meet representatives of the Centurion hegemony. We have studied your impressive history." The Centurion seemed taken aback by this response, as if surprised the humans knew anything about them. The formal reception proceeded with careful speeches and ritualized exchanges. Zara watched the humans closely, noting how they positioned themselves throughout the hall. Always in strategic locations, always with clear sight lines, to exits and to each other. They moved with purpose, though trying to appear casual. Later, as the gathering broke into informal conversation groups, Zara overheard the Centurion ambassador speaking to one of his aides. "They know about the fleet movement." How could they possibly know? Zara froze. The humans had intelligence, the Viridians did not. She looked across the room and caught Lisa watching the Centurions, her hand casually resting near what Zara now realized was a concealed weapon. Something was about to happen. The reception took an unexpected turn when Emperor Vex himself arrived. The ancient Viridian ruler rarely appeared at diplomatic functions, preferring to rule from his private chambers. The room fell silent as he entered. His scales were the deep purple of imperial authority, and his 7-foot frame towered over most attendees. Even the Centurion ambassador seemed momentarily humbled. "Ambassador Drex," the Emperor spoke, his voice carrying throughout the hall. "We are curious about your unannounced visit to our world, particularly when our long-standing treaty specifies formal notifications 6 cycles in advance." The Centurion ambassador bowed slightly. "We meant no disrespect, Great Emperor. Our mission is one of urgency since the arrival of the humans in your system." All eyes turned to Ambassador Mason and his team. The Emperor's scales flickered with interest. "The humans are our invited guests. They pose no threat to the treaty." "Ambassador." Drex stepped forward. "Our intelligence suggests otherwise. We believe the humans have brought advanced weapons technology to Viridian space. This violates Section 12 of our peace accord." Zara watched as Ambassador Mason exchanged a quick glance with Lisa. Something unspoken passed between them. "Ambassador." Mason walked forward until he stood beside the Viridian Emperor, a breach of protocol that caused gasps among the court attendants. "With respect, Ambassador Drex," he said calmly, "the Earth diplomatic vessel carries standard defensive capabilities as permitted under galactic protocols. We have brought no special weapons to Viridian space." The Centurion made a harsh clicking sound that the translator did not interpret. "You expect us to believe this when Earth vessels have been equipped with the dimensional collapse device in other sectors?" The room went completely silent. Zara had never heard of such a weapon, but the reaction of the Viridian officials suggested they had. Ambassador Mason smiled. "This is not the appropriate forum to discuss theoretical weapons technology. Perhaps we could arrange a private meeting to address your concerns." The Emperor turned to Mason. "You possess such technology." Lisa stepped forward smoothly. "Sir, with respect, security protocols prevent discussion of Earth defense capabilities in open forums." Zara realized the humans had neither confirmed nor denied the accusation. Their careful wording left the impression they might indeed have this mysterious weapon, while providing no actual confirmation. The Centurion, Ambassador Scales, had darkened to an aggressive crimson. "We demand verification that no such devices have been brought to this system." "That is not possible," Ambassador Mason replied. "Simply detecting such a device, if it existed, would require scanning. Technology that itself would violate the treaty. Would you not agree?" The Emperor made a sound that in Viridian culture indicated amusement. He was enjoying watching the humans outmaneuver the Centurions. Diplomatically, Ambassador Drex seemed frustrated, his tail twitching in agitation. "Earth has no formal treaties with the Centurion hegemony. Your presence here threatens the balance of power in this sector. Perhaps we should discuss establishing such treaties." Mason offered. "We value peaceful relations with all species." The reception continued with increased tension. The Centurion delegation huddled together, speaking in low tones, while the humans mingled with Viridian officials, as if nothing unusual had happened. Zara approached Lisa when she could, do so discreetly. "What is a dimensional collapse device?" Lisa shook her head. "I cannot discuss that even with you. Is it real?" Zara persisted. Lisa smiled enigmatically. "The most effective deterrent is one your adversary believes exists, whether it does or not." Later that evening, as the reception concluded, Zara was summoned to an unexpected meeting in the palace secure chamber. Emperor Vex had requested her presence along with Ambassador Mason and Princess Kylira. The Emperor wasted no time. "The Centurions are preparing for aggression. Our deep space monitors have detected their battle fleet assembling beyond the Cardian Nebula. They will be within strike range in 3 days." Mason nodded. "We have been tracking them as well." The Emperor turned to Zara. "You have studied the humans. What is your assessment of their capabilities?" Zara felt the weight of all eyes upon her. "I believe the humans possess strengths beyond their apparent technological level. Their strategic thinking and psychological warfare techniques are highly advanced. They understand their opponents in ways we do not understand them. And this weapon, the Centurion's fear? She asked Mason directly. The ambassador exchanged looks with the Emperor, who nodded, granting permission to speak freely. The dimensional collapse device is theoretical, Mason said carefully. We have research in that area, as do several advanced species, but deployment of such technology would be considered only in the most extreme circumstances. The Emperor leaned forward. Do you have such a weapon aboard your vessel? Mason met his gaze, Emperor Vex. I am authorized to state that Earth has the capability to protect our allies through various means. We consider Viridia such an ally. It was another non-answer Zara realized, but delivered with such conviction that it carried the weight of a promise. The meeting continued late into the night with discussions of strategy and contingencies. Zara was permitted to remain as a cultural advisor, helping the Viridians understand human tactics and thinking. The humans had brought star charts and tactical displays showing Centurion fleet movements. Their intelligence was somehow more current than even the Viridian military possessed. We believe they intend to claim violation of the treaty as pretext for a limited invasion, Mason explained, pointing to projected fleet trajectories. Their economy is struggling, and your outer colonies contain resources they desperately need. How would you respond to such aggression? The Emperor asked directly. Mason outlined a series of escalating responses, beginning with diplomatic warnings, followed by limited defensive actions, and finally what he called proportionate countermeasures. The calm, methodical approach impressed even the Viridian military leaders present. As the meeting concluded, Princess Kylira approached Mason. I misjudged your species, Ambassador, she said formally. I mistook restraint for weakness. The human nodded. I took no offense. Your Highness, testing boundaries is natural when meeting new potential allies or threats. Zara followed Lisa back to the embassy complex. The night sky was filled with stars and viridias. 3 moons cast multiple shadows across the garden paths. Do you really think the Centurions will attack? Zara asked. Lisa looked up at the stars. Maybe. But they will be making a serious mistake if they do. Why is that? Lisa smiled. Because humans protect their friends. We always have. Throughout our history on Earth, even nations that fought bitter wars against each other would unite when faced with a common outside threat. It is perhaps our most consistent trait. The next morning brought alarming news. The Centurion delegation had departed abruptly during the night, leaving only a formal message declaring their concerns about human interference in the treaty. Relationship war preparations began immediately throughout the capital. Viridian civilians were moved to shelters. Military vessels were repositioned. The human embassy, however, maintained its normal routine, as if nothing unusual was happening. Zara found this contrast fascinating. While Viridians rushed to prepare for potential attack, the humans calmly went about their diplomatic duties. Ambassador Mason even hosted a scheduled cultural exchange event showcasing Earth music and art. When she questioned Lisa about this apparent lack of concern, the human security chief smiled. We are preparing in our own way. Zara, our ship in orbit has been quite busy, and the ambassador has been in constant communication with Earth Command. What will you do when the Centurions arrive? Zara asked. Lisa's expression became serious. We will protect our friends. 2 days later, alarms sounded throughout the capital. A Centurion scout ship had entered the system, bypassing the outer defense grid. The Viridian military went to full alert. Zara hurried to the embassy, finding increased security at the entrance. Human security personnel were now openly carrying weapons, something they had avoided since their arrival. Lisa met her in the lobby. Her usual casual demeanor had been replaced by a focused intensity. She wore what appeared to be a form-fitting combat suit beneath her diplomatic uniform. Zara. What are you doing here? Lisa asked. You should be in a shelter. I need to document what happens for my research. Zara explained. This is first contact between humans and Centurions in a conflict situation. Lisa shook her head. This is not a research exercise, this is potentially war. Before Zara could respond, Ambassador Mason appeared in the lobby. He too had changed his appearance, now wearing a dark uniform with subtle insignia that Zara did not recognize. The ambassador is needed at the palace. Lisa said the Emperor has called an emergency council. Zara followed them despite Lisa's objections. As a recognized researcher on human behavior, she was permitted to attend most diplomatic functions. The Palace War room was filled with Viridian military commanders and government officials. When Ambassador Mason entered, conversations stopped. All eyes turned to the human. The Emperor nodded to Mason. Our long-range sensors have confirmed a Centurion battle group has entered the system. They will reach orbital position in 6 hours. Our main fleet cannot return from the outer colonies for at least 3 days. We are vulnerable. What assistance can Earth provide? Commander Jax asked, the tone suggesting skepticism. Your single vessel cannot stand against 8 Centurion warships. Mason stepped to the tactical display. Your Majesty, with your permission, Earth has already taken certain precautionary measures. The Emperor gestured. Permission. Mason activated a communication. Device Captain Kelly status report. A female human voice responded clearly through the system. The Defender has moved to intercept position. Ambassador, we have deployed the countermeasures as authorized. 3 additional Earth vessels have entered the system from jump points Gamma 7 and Beta 3. They will reach defensive positions within 2 hours. The Viridian officials looked at each other in confusion. Additional vessels. What vessels? Commander Jax demanded. Where did they come from? Mason smiled slightly. They were always nearby, observing earthly interests in this sector. When the Centurion threat emerged, they were called in. Zara found this revelation stunning. The humans had more ships in proximity to Viridia than anyone had realized. Their intelligence reports had mentioned only the diplomatic vessel. Are these warships? Commander Jax asked. Mason nodded. They are multi-purpose vessels with defensive capabilities. The Emperor leaned forward. Ambassador Mason, we appreciate your assistance, but I must be direct. Can your ships truly defend against the Centurion force? Their technology is among the most advanced in this sector. Mason looked directly at the Emperor. I cannot discuss our specific capabilities in detail, but I can say that we have successfully deterred similar threats in other systems. We believe we can protect Viridia until your fleet returns. The war room erupted in discussion. Some military leaders expressed doubt, while others seemed relieved at the human intervention. Preparations continued throughout the day. Zara remained with the human delegation, observing their calm, methodical approach to the crisis. While Viridian commanders shouted orders and rushed between stations, the humans communicated in quiet, efficient tones. Their confidence was either well-founded or an exceptional act of deception. 4 hours later, the Centurion battle group had moved deep into the system. Their trajectory confirmed they were headed directly for Viridia. The Palace Defense Center displayed their approach on the main tactical screen. Zara stood beside Lisa, watching the human response. Ambassador Mason was in continuous communication with the Earth vessels, his instructions brief and technical. The human ships had taken positions, forming a defensive screen between the approaching Centurions and Viridia. What happens now? Zara whispered. Lisa kept her eyes on the display. We attempt communication first. Always we offer them a chance to withdraw. As if on cue, Ambassador Mason announced, the Defender is hailing the Centurion fleet. The war room fell silent as they listened to the transmission. Centurion Battle Group. This is Captain Kelly of the Earth vessel Defender. You are approaching Viridian sovereign space in violation of established treaties. We request you alter course immediately and withdraw from this system. Seconds passed with no response. The captain continued. Earth has formal diplomatic relations with the Viridian Empire. We consider any hostile action against Viridia to be an action against Earth interests. We strongly advise you to reconsider your current course. The main screen flickered as a Centurion commander appeared. His armored exoskeleton gleamed under the bright lights of his bridge. Human vessel. This is Fleet Commander Zortax. Your threats are meaningless. We have treaty rights to investigate suspected weapons of mass destruction within this system. Stand aside or be destroyed. Ambassador Mason nodded to a communications officer. The response came. Quickly, Commander Zortax. This is Ambassador Mason representing Earth interests. Be advised that we have shared our defensive protocols with our Viridian allies. Any aggression against this planet will trigger an immediate response. This is your final warning. The Centurion commander made a dismissive gesture. You have one vessel of significance in this system. We have scanned your other ships. They are minimal threat to our battle group. Mason smiled. Earth defensive capabilities cannot be accurately assessed by standard scans, Commander. As a gesture of good faith, I am transmitting coordinates of a small asteroid in the outer system. Our ship will demonstrate a limited defensive measure on this target in 30 seconds. Please observe the war. Room view screen split to show the asteroid in question. A small barren rock floating in space. What is happening? Zara asked. Lisa's voice was quiet. Watch a beam of energy lanced out from the defender, striking the asteroid. Nothing seemed to happen for several seconds. Then the asteroid began to shimmer with an eerie light. Its surface appeared to fold inward as if being consumed from within. In less than a minute, the entire asteroid, approximately 1 kilometer in diameter, had completely disappeared. The war room was absolutely silent. Commander Zortak's face showed the Centurion equivalent of shock. That is a dimensional collapse weapon, he stated. You actually possess them, Ambassador. Mason's voice remained calm. That was a very limited demonstration at minimal power, Commander. The technology can be calibrated to various targets with precision. I trust this clarifies our defensive posture. The Centurion fleet immediately halted its advance. We will withdraw to the treaty boundary, Ambassador Fleet. Commander Zortak stated, his tone now respectful. We will file a formal protest with the Galactic Council regarding the presence of such weapons in this sector. The transmission ended. Zara could hardly believe what she had witnessed. The humans had just forced a Centurion battle group to retreat without firing a single conventional weapon. The implications were staggering. The Emperor turned to Ambassador Mason with new respect. You have saved my world without bloodshed. This debt will not be forgotten. Mason bowed slightly. The Earth seeks peaceful relations with all species, Emperor Vex. But we protect our friends and diplomatic partners. When the Centurions understand this, they will become more reasonable neighbors as the immediate crisis past the war room began to empty. Viridian officials moved to establish new security protocols and prepare for potential diplomatic fallout. Zara followed Lisa and the ambassador back to the embassy, her mind racing with questions. In the embassy, Garden Mason finally addressed her unasked questions. You want to know if what we demonstrated was real? He said. Zara nodded, unable to find words. Mason exchanged looks with Lisa, then smiled. Sometimes perception is more important than reality, researcher. Zara, the Centurions believed we had this capability. That belief alone was enough to prevent a war. But the asteroid, Zara began. It disappeared. Did it? Lisa asked. Or did you see what we wanted everyone to see? Zara stared at the humans, trying to process what Lisa had just suggested. Had the demonstration been some kind of illusion? The asteroid had vanished before her eyes along with everyone else in the war room. Illusion or reality, Ambassador Mason said. The outcome remains the same. The Centurion fleet has withdrawn and Viridia is safe. Lisa nodded. Our mission was to protect your world, not to reveal all our capabilities. Zara realized the humans were neither confirming nor denying the reality of their weapon. This strategic ambiguity seemed to be a cornerstone of their diplomatic approach. 3 days later, the Viridian Imperial fleet returned to the home system. By then, the humans had resumed their normal diplomatic activities as if the crisis had never happened. Their additional ships maintained a discreet presence in the outer system. Neither threatening nor hidden, Zara was summoned to the Imperial Palace where Princess Kylira awaited. She found the young royal in the crystal, garden, her scales now a thoughtful green. You have spent much time with the humans, Kylira said as Zara approached. What have you learned about them? Zara considered her words carefully. They are a species of contradictions, Your Highness. They appear physically weak, yet demonstrate remarkable strength when needed. They value peace deeply, yet prepare constantly for conflict. They share knowledge freely in some areas while maintaining absolute secrecy in others. The princess nodded thoughtfully. The Emperor has ordered a complete reassessment of our understanding of Earth and its people. You will lead this research." Zara was stunned. This was an enormous promotion from her previous position as a junior researcher. "I am honored, Your Highness. But may I ask why Kylera's scales shifted to a royal purple?" "My father believes, as do I, that our future is tied to the humans. They protected us when they had no obligation to do so. That creates a bond, but also questions. We must understand them better. The Princess continued. Ambassador Mason has invited us to send a delegation to Earth. It would be the first Viridian visit to the human homeworld. You will be part of this historic journey." Zara could hardly contain her excitement. This opportunity exceeded her wildest ambitions. The following weeks were filled with preparations for the Earth mission. Zara continued her research now, with full access to all diplomatic records concerning human interactions. The picture that emerged was fascinating. Humans had established relations with 17 known species in the past decade. In every case, they had begun with peaceful overtures, followed by cultural and scientific exchanges. Yet in situations where conflict arose, they had demonstrated unexpected capabilities that quickly established them as formidable allies or opponents. Most intriguing was that no species had actually seen humans engage in full-scale warfare. Their deterrent strategies had proven sufficient to avoid major conflicts. Zara documented these findings in her preliminary report, noting that humans seemed to follow an ancient philosophy from their world: speak softly, but carry a big stick. The day before the Viridian delegation was set to depart, Zara visited the embassy to say goodbye to Lisa. The human security officer had become more than a research subject. She was now a friend. Lisa was packing her own belongings. "I have been reassigned to Earth," she explained. "I will help oversee your delegation visit." Zara was pleased they would continue working together. "There is still one question that bothers me," she admitted. "That demonstration with the asteroid. Was it real?" Lisa smiled. "After all this time, you still ask direct questions. This is why I like you, Zara. But some questions are better left with some mystery." Zara tilted her head. "I notice you humans are very comfortable with ambiguity. Viridians prefer certainty." Lisa nodded. "Perhaps this is why our species can learn from each other. You help us see the value. In clarity, we help you see the strength in strategic ambiguity." As Zara left the embassy, she noticed a small group of Viridian children watching the humans with fascination. These younglings had grown up hearing stories about the mysterious Earth people. Now they were seeing them in person. One small Viridian approached a human diplomatic aide and asked a question Zara could not hear. The human kneeled down to eye level with the child and answered patiently, showing none of the superiority that Viridian adults typically displayed toward younglings. This small gesture of respect spoke volumes about human culture. Zara realized, perhaps this was the true strength of humanity, not their weapons or technology, but their ability to connect with others, to build bridges rather than walls. The journey to Earth took 23 days aboard a Viridian diplomatic vessel. Ambassador Mason traveled with them, serving as both guide and liaison. The 3 human ships that had appeared during the crisis escorted them for the first portion of the journey before returning to their patrol duties. As they approached the Sol system, Zara spent hours at the observation portal. Earth appeared first as a small blue dot, growing larger with each passing hour. The human homeworld was predominantly water, unlike the arid Viridia. Its single moon seemed plain compared to Viridius, 3 colorful satellites. "This is where your species evolved?" Zara asked Mason as they observed the approach. He nodded. "That small world shaped everything about us. Our struggles, our triumphs, our perspective on the universe." Zara was surprised. Earth seemed so unremarkable compared to other worlds she had studied. How did humans develop such advanced capabilities on such a modest planet? Mason seemed to read her thoughts. "We had no natural advantages, Zara. No scales or venom or great physical strength. We had to rely on our minds, our ability to cooperate, and yes, our willingness to fight when necessary. Our history is filled with conflicts among ourselves. But from those conflicts came innovation, determination, and eventually unity." The delegation was greeted with formal ceremony when they reached Earth orbit. A space station served as the arrival point for non-human visitors. The Viridian officials were impressed by the efficiency of human operations, though they noted the relatively simple technology compared to other advanced species. We build things to last, not to impress. Lisa explained when Zara, commented on this. Form follows function in human engineering. Their first days on Earth were filled with cultural exchanges and diplomatic meetings. Zara documented everything from the varied climates they visited to the diverse human population. They toured historical sites, modern cities, and natural wonders. Most impressive to Zara was not the human technology, but their adaptability. Humans lived in every environment, from frozen tundra to sweltering deserts, from mountain peaks to underground cities. They had shaped their world while allowing themselves to be shaped by it. During a private moment at a reception, Zara finally asked Ambassador Mason the question that had been bothering her since the Centurion incident. Why did Earth intervene? When the Centurions threatened us, we had no formal defense treaty. Mason looked out over the city skyline visible from the reception hall. For thousands of years, humans fought each other over resources, territory, ideology. When we finally ventured to the stars, we carried those painful lessons with us. We decided that we would try to be the allies we wished we had had during our darkest times. He turned to face her. We protected Viridia because it was the right thing to do, and perhaps because we see something of ourselves in your people. A combination of pride and potential. Zara thought about the teenage princess who had insulted the human ambassador weeks earlier. Yet instead of retaliation, the humans had offered protection when needed. Humans had chosen restraint not from weakness but from wisdom. They had walked away when insulted not from fear but from confidence. They had demonstrated power not to threaten but to preserve peace. On her final night on Earth, Zara completed her official report to the Emperor. Its conclusion was simple and profound. The humans are neither the saviors nor the conquerors that different factions feared. They are simply people who have learned through bitter experience that strength without compassion leads to destruction, while compassion without strength leads to victimhood. They have found balance where many species still struggle. She added a personal note, in the human ambassador turning and walking away from Princess Kylyra without a word. I witnessed not an insult but a lesson. The true power of humanity lies not in their weapons or technology, but in knowing when to use force and when to show restraint, when to engage and when to walk away. This wisdom makes them the most unpredictable and perhaps the most important allies Viridia could have found among the stars. As the Viridian ship prepared for the return journey, Zara looked back at the blue planet that had produced such a remarkable species. The humans were expanding into the galaxy, bringing with them their contradictions and complexities. The teenage alien royal had insulted the human, and he had turned and walked away without a word. That moment had changed everything. Worlds had been saved, alliances formed, and perhaps most importantly, perspectives had been transformed. Zara now understood that sometimes the greatest strength is shown not in what you do, but in what you choose not to do.